That's our studio, that's our office, our architecture office. It's a shipping container. It's a 40-foot refrigerated shipping container that we cut and then made into a T, and then built our studio in that. And we built that before we built the house. We craned it in here. It's great, we love it. This is the door end. You can see the hardware for the doors that we just kind of cut off and left. So this whole end would have opened, the hinges you can see here and there. So this was the opening end. So we put this big old window in there. The Port of Oakland has hundreds of these things left over. What happens after they've been around the world, I don't know how many times, they get dinged up and get holes in them, and sometimes they get dropped, and there's a certain number of patches they're allowed to have before they no longer meet the international shipping standard. And so when they're at that point, they get retired and then sold off, and they're pretty cheap actually. This one was $1,800 because it had been dropped.
But it works as a shelter.
Yeah, they float. You know, they're completely watertight, and you can put 60,000 pounds in them and then stack them 8 high and then put them on a ship, you know, rocking on. They're incredibly strong. So they're way stronger than a house ever needs to be. So in earthquake country, it's actually a good building block. Because it's a refrigerated unit, it's actually insulated. And so they design these things to have no thermal bridging from the outside to the inside. So even though this is really hot right now, inside it's really cool. It works quite well in most weathers, and so we didn't have to do any additional insulation on it. They use them to ship frozen food and things like that, and they have a refrigerator unit attached to this end, usually, and the whole thing is insulated. We opened it up and put a sliding glass door in there. Just with the Sawzall. It's easy to cut. It's just aluminum on the outside and stainless steel on the inside and insulation in between.
So on the inside, it's salvaged wood. But this end was just an infill.
That was totally
took the refrigerator unit out. And it's actually really cool because it's almost just exactly the right height for a 7-foot sliding glass door. So we just put this in, and then over here, it just is infill, this piece here. And then Karl put the street signs as the siding over here.
So this isn't more difficult to work with. I mean, it's not as easy to craft as wood, you know?
I found, you know, once I got over my learning curve, I actually really like working with metal. I started out just being a carpenter and being intimidated by metal, and I think most builders are in that mindset, but as I kind of pushed further and further into it, I actually really like working with metal.
Oh, this wall's great.
It's food grade stainless steel, because they have to be able to, you know, meet the food service codes. So they hose them out, you know, after they ship them, and then they load them up again. Yeah. Here's a model of this. No, just kidding. We have all different scales. So we just cut big windows in and put shelving and desks and made it into a habitable space. Under here, there are all these drains in the floor that lead to one end, so they can, when they hose it out, it all drains out. And so we just put this soy-based plywood floor on it.
Right, that's Pure Bond.
Pure Bond plywood.
Doesn't have formaldehyde.
Yeah.
Where you're standing right now, that is...
This is the joint between the two containers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this is the thickness of the wall. Standard aluminum outside, stainless steel inside, insulation in between, which is covered over. It's called polyisocyanurate. It's a plastic, which is unfortunate, but since we're salvaging the whole thing, we figured it's really not a bad use of plastic. It has the highest insulation value of any of the foam insulations. So this is actually equivalent to a 2x4 wall filled with fiberglass insulation. So like a regular house wall.
So you work right here in the backyard?
Yeah. Yeah, this is our office. Yeah.
You did a great job at opening it up, putting enough windows in.
Yeah, and also the diagonal through makes it feel quite a bit bigger. It's actually really nice that way. We can talk to each other. If you imagine it was all just one long, narrow space, you wouldn't have this width anywhere, whereas in this space you kind of feel the space expanding in two directions, and then that kind of wraps this sunny courtyard, which we eat out there sometimes. So
Client meetings there.
have client meetings there, yeah.
It's also pretty when you can hear the rain on the roof. Like
Yes.
pouring down.
And when it's windy, the branches of all the things outside sort of scrape on the building, and that's a nice sound as well.
It's been a long project.
Yeah.
But we feel like we're not quite done, but we're almost there. It's always going to be a work in progress, I think.